Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Imran Khan has landed in Washington now, almost exactly 20 years after one of his predecessors, Nawaz Sharif, had come to Washington to meet the American president. In that case, Bill Clinton. Nawaz Sharif, since then, Imran Khan is locked up in jail. Now, compare the situation to 20 years back. And this gives you an idea of what has changed in the subcontinent, especially with Pakistan, and what hasn't. So first of all, Nawaz Sharif came in 1999 in a very weak position. His country was fighting a limited war, but a limited war. In Kargil, his country was losing it. It was also a war where he was not fully in the picture. And he realized that even though he had a majority, etc., and he had appointed a chief, the army in Pakistan has its own laws. They don't particularly follow their civilian elected government. 20 years later, Imran Khan comes with many similar weaknesses. One, his country is now much more bankrupt economically than before. I've said this before, but they've just made many compromises on their economic sovereignty just to borrow $6 billion from IMF. And I'm saying it for the fourth time, but this is less than the money that Lakshmi Mittal is paying to buy SR Steel, the bankrupt SR Steel. So for less money than that, Pakistan has bartered away its economic sovereignty. So that is the weakness Pakistan has now. The second weakness they have is that over the past 20 years, even since Kargil, Pakistan has seen much more destruction of its institutions, much more destruction of its incipient or fledgling democracy, because whatever democracy was there is now a pale shadow of what it was earlier. This Prime Minister has much less power than Nawaz Sharif did with the majority. He even has less power than Benazir might have had, although she was at odds with the army, because he is seen very much as a selected Prime Minister. So the decline in Pakistan's institutions, which were just coming up, including the judiciary, has been phenomenal. At the same time, there's been a flight of capital, both financial capital and intellectual capital. And add to that, although it's connected, entrepreneurial capital. So Pakistan is in deep trouble in those many areas. But unlike Nawaz Sharif, Imran Khan also has many strengths, or Imran Khan's Pakistan has many strengths. First of all, just what we just counted as his big weakness, that he's a selected Prime Minister, is also his strength. How does it work? Because he is in harmony with his army, because he's pretty much accepted this position of being a selected leader, where he takes the cue from the army. There is no pretense of defying the army. There is no pretense of saying, mine is the elected government, you take orders from me. That's why the army is willing to play along with him much more than they might have ever been with Nawaz Sharif or Asif Zardari or Benazir Bhutto. So, while Imran Khan comes to Washington, so does his army chief and so does his new ISI chief. So both of them are doing their own stuff. So this is a way of telling the Americans that, look, talk to him, we are backing him in whatever he is doing, and the Americans know it. We know it, the whole world knows it, and India knows it better than the whole world, that since the mid-50s, Americans have had a much greater comfort level with military dictators in Pakistan than with elected leaders. In fact, I have a volume of American declassified papers of 1955-57 vintage, and there is a very interesting note sent by then American Consul General in Lahore, saying that he's met this brilliant officer called Muhammad Ayub, who he thinks will be very suitable to lead Pakistan going ahead in future. So Americans have been talent hunting from Pakistan's army, and they find it easier to deal with one tough Fauji type who they think can deliver, because they are realistic about Pakistan. Unlike some of us who at various points of time get a little starry-eyed and we think Pakistan is now getting a democracy and an elected leader, the two tragedies that Nawaz Sharif has had, despite having a full majority in Pakistan, tell you that Pakistan is a military-run state. So Imran Khan, because he has accepted that status quo, that becomes his strength, because he is now a cover, civilian cover for his ministry. You can call him a decoy if you want to make fun of him, but he is also the real McCoy, right? Because he's the real one. He speaks his military's voice. That's his strength. The other strength is, which is Pakistan's fundamental strategic strength, which is its geography. Pakistan's biggest asset, diplomatically, strategically, economically, militarily, is its geography. And why do I say so? Pakistan is a unique country. It's on the eastern edges of the Islamic world, of the Middle East. It's on the western edges of the rest of Asia. It's a unique country which borders Iran, Afghanistan. Now, Iran is a country America is at odds with. Afghanistan is a country where America and a lot of the rest of the world has their resources and their forces and their people stuck. Then it has borders with China. Now, China is a country with which the entire world now has trade, has many relationships, has tensions. There is a red scare in Washington right now. In fact, if you look up the recent writings in the New York Times and elsewhere, they tell you that at this point there is a fresh red scare in Washington. It's not like the old red scare from Moscow. It's now from Beijing. So Pakistan has this very, very special relationship with China, and for the Chinese, Pakistan is their only gateway to Indian Ocean, to Arabian Sea. Similarly, for the Chinese, the Islamic parts of China, the Igbo regions, for example, are their soft underbelly, along with the Buddhist Tibet. Similarly, for Russia, its Islamic regions, or what the American media now sometimes call stans, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, they were Soviet Union's underbelly. And next to those was Afghanistan, and because Pakistan had influence in Afghanistan, Pakistan became key to American-Saudi-Chinese combined war against the Soviet power, because they knew that the way to fight the Soviet power was in the region where they were at their weakest, which is the Islamic republics of the Soviet Union. And you know what happened. Soviet Union lost in Afghanistan, and after that it unraveled, and all these stans became sovereign countries. In fact, the breakup of Soviet Union started in these areas. So Pakistan was the jumping point for all of that. That is the reason even in the mid-50s, Pakistan was made a member of the new security organizations, a kind of Asian baby NATOs that America set up. So that is Pakistan's geographical power. On the other side, it has this long border with India. Now, globally, in terms of global strategic calculations, that doesn't matter. That only matters to the extent that Pakistan is a big nuisance for India. And India is a bigger power, and if Pakistan becomes too much of a nuisance, then India will be forced to go and beat upon it. I'm not saying that it will be a cakewalk, but India will always have that ability. So, globally, strategically, there is a stake in peace in the subcontinent, not so much because everybody is interested in India's well-being, but in a perverse way, everybody is interested in Pakistan's well-being. Nobody wants India to go and mess things around in Pakistan, because everybody has so many stakes to the west of Afghanistan. That situation waxes and wanes. Sometimes this becomes more important, sometimes it becomes less important. If you go back to 2001, it had become much less important. After Kargil, Pakistan was a declining power. Pakistan had lost a limited war. It had made a retreat. A dictator had taken over in Pakistan. There was a global dislike for what he had done. He was ignored by the global community. Pakistan was at one of its weakest moments then strategically, because at that moment, geography also wasn't its strength. And then geography once again came to its aid. Because you know what happened? 9/11. When 9/11 happened, suddenly George Bush realized that the root of 9/11, the home of Al Qaeda, was in a region which was in Pakistan's control. All access to that region was in Pakistan's control. All intelligence in that region was in Pakistan's control. So suddenly, from being a global pariah, Pakistan became a very important country. And in no time, you saw the same Americans who were ignoring Pakistan, who were calling it a global migraine. Madeleine Albright, the US Secretary of State once, she described Pakistan as a global migraine. The same America was now calling Pakistan a stalwart ally. Now, today you have a situation when Trump wants to pull out of Afghanistan. Why? Because he made his election promises. He promised to pull his troops back from overseas. So he's been pulling his troops back from Syria. He also wants to pull them back from Afghanistan. Remember, he also has elections next year. He can do no such thing unless the Pakistanis cooperate. So he needs the Pakistanis. So once again, geography has become Pakistan's big asset. So Trump wants a deal in Afghanistan, and this deal he thinks can only be secured through Pakistan. And he knows, and his people know, that this deal can only be given to him by the Pakistani army and the ISI. But at this point, because army and the ISI don't control power directly, they have to put somebody in front to talk on their behalf. And that is what is happening. And then it's for them, not so much for Imran Khan. Imran Khan is a pretty face. I say it with no judgment on his looks, but purely in strategic terms. He's a cover. He's a mukhota, if I may say so, if I may Indianize it. But people who are talking are the Pakistani armed forces. They want a deal with America. Americans want a deal with them. The question is, what deal are they willing to offer? And what is America willing to offer in return? Those times when Pakistanis could expect Americans to intercede with India to start talks on Kashmir, etc., are now gone, over. Use by date on that was over 20 years back with Kargil. Remember when Clinton came to Pakistan and said maps of the subcontinent can no longer be drawn in blood. Those days are over. But when you see what deals are possible, think of a name called Lindsey Graham. Google it. Lindsey Graham is a prominent Republican senator from Southern California, Southern Carolina. He is the hawk of the hawks. He is among the most hawkish parliamentarians in America. He is a former US Air Force colonel. He, until December, wanted American engagement to not wind down in Afghanistan. He wanted to fight in Afghanistan. He's one of those characters. Then he came to Pakistan and something happened. And he held a press conference in Pakistan, I think on 21st or 22nd January, where he said that, look, time has now come for us to look for a settlement and peace in Afghanistan. In fact, he used strong language when he was asked about the state of Afghan army. And he said, if we leave now, let me tell you, Afghanistan will soon go to sh.t, right? So he is the one who then proposed that the way to get this deal in Afghanistan will be for Pakistan to help America. So America needed Pakistan's help. He then talked about a US-Pakistan free trade agreement, and he also talked about setting up a meeting between Imran Khan and Donald Trump. That's how this meeting has come about. It's also possible that Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince, has also helped here. Remember when you see visuals of Imran Khan meeting Donald Trump, that Donald Trump had tweeted on New Year's Day 2018 saying that what has America got from Pakistan except lies and deceit in return for the $33 billion it has given them over the previous 15 years. He also said in that tweet that Pakistanis treat American leaders as fools, and he ended that tweet with a big no more and his characteristic sign of exclamation. So think what has changed in 1.5 years. So, once again, now Imran Khan does not go only with the palm spread out. He also has something to offer, or at least people behind him have something to offer that Trump needs very badly, because Trump needs this deal. So that has led to a situation which Pakistan's foreign minister, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, has described, I must say, with his usual sort of panache and overconfidence, as having moved from isolation to invitation. So that is how you look at the strategic situation as Imran Khan meets Donald Trump.